Hello everyone, welcome back to Parenting 101. My name is Analise Williams, and today we are going to learn and practice 10 simple self-care tips that are based on scientific data for you to become a better parent and an overall happier, healthier human. I apologize, this video is a little bit late. I hope to upload all of my videos on Friday mornings. It is Friday afternoon. By the time I get done editing, it may be Saturday before you see this video. I am learning all about editing and how not to delete all of my videos. I had worked hours on this first video and then everything crashed and it was erased. So we are going to be getting through a lot of information in a short amount of time. So please stay tuned and like and subscribe below. It helps with the YouTube algorithm to get this information out to more people, and I'm hopeful this will help you all. Self-care is a crucial factor for parenting success because in order to take care of someone else, we need to learn to take care of our own needs first. I know this may sound kind of selfish in the beginning. It did for me when I was first learning all about self-care, but I assure you it is not. You will be thanking yourself, your children will see the changes in you, they will be thanking you, your partner, your loved ones, etc. When we are our best selves, other people feel that, and the positive energy spreads. So bear with me, but before we get started, I would like to engage with you in a small activity that I've done, or an example that I've used with my clients in the past to demonstrate how important self-care is. So I would like you to take a moment. Imagine you are on an airplane. You are with your loved ones, your husband, your partner, your best friend, your children, and God forbid something happens, that mask falls down right in front of you. What would be your first instinct? I would like you to think about this for a moment. Would you give the mask to yourself first or your children? If you are like most of my clients and parents that I work with in therapy and in coaching, you are most likely going to say that you're going to give this to your child first. There's nothing wrong with that. That is a normal, natural parental instinct, but I am here to tell you otherwise. I'm going to encourage you to think about giving the mask to yourself first, because if we are not okay and if we are not breathing, neither will our children be. I am going to teach you how to take care of yourself first so that we can become our best selves and be our best selves for other people. So let's get started. Tip number 1, awareness. Awareness is the process by which we take a moment or two to check in with yourself, think about all of those thoughts that are going on in your mind, think about how they affect your emotions and your feelings and your behaviors. This is what we call awareness. Some people call this mindfulness, other people call it being in the present. Whatever you want to call it, by all means, that's your choice. I am going to show you a recent article conducted by Rodriguez, Moranos, and others from 2021, which was published in the American Psychological Association's Journal of Family Psychology. They conducted a correlational study between need frustration, need satisfaction, psychological control, and mindfulness. And they found that when we are perceiving mindfulness to be high, our need frustration, which is frustrated with ourselves, feeling insecure about our decision making, that negatively affected our psychological control, which is our autonomy. If we are not in a control of our psyche, then all kinds of things happen, right? We say the wrong thing, we yell, we get frustrated when we don't mean to, we take it out on our husband or our wife or whatnot. The list can go on and on and on, and we will talk more about that in another video on this channel. But for now, this is just to show you how impactful mindfulness is on our parenting behavior. Why is this information important? Because prior research has shown that children of parents with depression or anxiety are at a greater risk of experiencing distress or other psychological ailments. In addition, when parents feel that their psychological needs have been satisfied, in other words, self-care, they are typically more aware and more mindful of their reactions. When we can be more mindful of our reactions, we typically react less. There's what's called less negative parenting. Negative parenting in psychology is defined as harsh, reactive, or intrusive parenting. We'll talk a little bit more of that later when we get into parenting styles in other videos. But this is a critical factor involved in any decision making that we have in our life, because when we are aware of our own emotions, we can better explain that, for example, to our kids. When I'm having a hard day or I'm stressed, just as we all are in life sometimes, I will typically say things like, I've learned over time, by the way, to be able to check in with myself, see why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling, and be able to explain that to my children depending on their age and their developmental abilities, that it's me and it's not them. Because otherwise they might feel our emotions as if they've done something wrong. We'll talk about that more in matching behavior in another video on this channel. Another important factor that it demonstrates in this article is that when we promote what's called autonomy supportive parenting with our children. Autonomy supportive parenting means basically that we promote the independence in our children. When we are feeling like our needs are met, when we feel good about ourselves, when we are calm, when we are focused, when we are mindful and aware, we then become more aware of our child needing to experience the same thing, autonomy. So autonomy, being independent, ultimately that's our goal as parents, right? Is to teach our children to become independent, successful, healthy, and happy humans, and to be accountable. In order to do that, we have to have our needs met first. Children, for example, the United States government or other governments around the world determined that an adult for a child is age 18, and in reality, that is not true. A child can be 15 and can demonstrate many autonomy supportive behaviors in their life where they are already independent, they make good decisions. Ultimately, that's our goal as a parent. There's other children in the world that are 24 years old, and they may not have the capacity to be autonomous, whether it be part of our parenting style or part of other genetic or developmental components that they have endured. So many other things that we're going to talk about on this channel, but it's important to support our children in their autonomy, and in order to do that, we have to be autonomous ourselves. And part of being autonomous and independent is having a sufficient self-care. Awareness means to take the time cognitively, periodically throughout your day to check in on how you feel and why you feel the way you feel. It's very important to recognize why we're frustrated, how we're frustrated, when we're frustrated, so that we are better equipped to make changes in our life, positive changes, and that leads us into self-care tip number 2. But before we move on, if you are finding value in this content, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much. It helps us promote this positive parenting education to the rest of our communities. The next simple self-care tip that is based on scientific data is finding your passion. One of my favorite psychologists of all time, he recently passed away, RIP. I believe the way that you pronounce his name is Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He is a psychologist that studied the state of flow, a lot of research, thousands and thousands of articles that go into happiness, creativity, and state of flow. He says, find out what you like and what you hate about life. Start doing more of what you love and less of what you hate. I know that almost sounds too simple or too good to be true, but I, in the past 5 years of providing therapy to children and families, have found that talk therapy, it doesn't work anymore. In this economy, in the way that we are, we need to keep it simple, and we need to take action to make things happen, or we're gonna feel the same way that we feel over and over again. And basically that's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over, expecting new results. So I would like to change our mindset to allow us to focus more on what we want and less of what we don't. And we are gonna do that together right now. I would like you to take out a piece of paper, open up your computer, open up your notepad on your phone, whatever you have access to right now, and create a list. On one side, you're gonna create a list of all of the things you don't like or that you hate in life right now on this side. And then on the other side, I would like you to create a list of the things that you do like, the things you enjoy doing for fun, the activities, things that make you happy, feelings that you enjoy on the right. And then also on the left, below the things you don't like now, I would like you to make a list of the things you don't want in your life later, as well as the things that you do want in your future later on this side. So I'm gonna show you the one that I created right here, which is very simple. For example, some of the things I don't like is taxes. I'm gonna learn to find a way to use my income and my finances to donate for things that I feel like are important in life. There's many ways to do this, and we'll talk about this more in the resource video coming up. Maybe you don't like your job and you want to change your job, or you want to work from home, which we're also going to talk about in our resource video next week, so stay tuned. Mopping the floors. I am not a fan of mopping the floors. I don't like anger. It triggers me. We can talk more about that too later in another video. I also don't like when my kids talk back to me. So this is where awareness becomes very important, because we need to be aware of as parents or caretakers, how are we going to respond when our kids talk back to us? What type of consequences, what type of voice are we gonna have? All of those things are very important. So other things that I don't want in my future, I don't want financial stress, I don't want physical limitations, I don't want to be depressed. I have struggled with depression off and on for the majority of my life, especially in my childhood. And as I've learned techniques such as these today, I am no longer feeling depressed. I can get out of that very quickly if I am, or if I go through moods or hormones. Hormones is a whole nother topic, which we will get to at another time as well. But that is not something that I want in my life. So I have learned to take action and do more of what I love to combat the things that I don't. So on the right-hand side, I put all of the things that I do like. I like going on adventures with my kids. I love date night with my husband. I think that's super important. I love friend time, going on girlfriends getaways. I try to do that at least 2 or 3 times a year, and I look forward to that every time. I love watching football. I love watching my husband coach and my son play football. I love sports in general. I love doing sports performance coaching, which we can talk more about later. If you're interested, let me know, comment below. I love helping people, which is why I'm here today, donating my time to try to get this information out to the rest of the communities in the world. I love traveling. I want to see more of the world. I love to cook. I love music, concerts. If you love art or painting or crocheting, whatever your passions are, do more of that. What you want in the future, I want financial freedom. I want to take more trips, spend more quality time with my loved ones. Accomplishments, obviously accomplishments bring us joy and empowerment. We're going to get to that in another simple self-care tip coming up, so stay tuned. Kindness, I feel I would like to learn more kindness. I would like to see more kindness in the world, so I find ways to incorporate that into my life and into my education. And I also want to find time to be silly, just to laugh more and be free and bring out the kid in me. I think that's an enormous quality for happiness, and that's something that fulfills me and things that I enjoy. So I do more things that make me laugh. This is an example. The more you get in habit of doing this, and it's very easy, as you can see, you can just jot down a couple things, and right then and there, it makes us feel a little bit more aware of the things we don't like and the things we do like in our life, where we can start to check mark off that list of the things we don't like and add more to the do's. So I encourage you to take this time, short period of time, to accomplish a small list, and you will feel better, I promise you. Okay, simple self-care tip number 3. I found an article recently that is published by Couts and others, and here you can see this is a study on self-care and parenting. And one of the reason for lack of self-care is due to time constraints. So when we talk about time management, as we're doing right here today, we are gonna find more time to implement self-care into our life. As you can see here, 73.9% of caregivers demonstrated that time constraints is the #1 factor due to their busy schedule, not having enough time in the day, running out of time, too much homework. We're gonna talk a lot about how to make more time in your schedule during our resource video that we will be talking about next week, so stay tuned for that. I would like you all to write out a schedule for the week, a schedule to show you how much time you delegate for each task, and all of the activities that you are currently doing, and just to be aware of what our week looks like, so that we can then use that information, incorporate more of what we love into that schedule, get rid of, delete, check mark out the things that you do not enjoy, delegate those tasks to someone else. One really great way to do that is to have our kids help us do certain things like chores. That will be a whole nother video coming up on this channel. I would encourage you to designate at least 1 hour per day for self-care time into your weekly schedule. This will allow you to accomplish things from these 10 self-care tips that we are talking about today. In addition, some of these self-care tips we can do simultaneously, so we will talk more about that in a moment. Here is a side tip: limiting your screen time can be an extraordinary way to add more of those things you enjoy doing into your weekly schedule, because as we all know, when we are scrolling through like nonsensical videos and things on TikTok, if they're making you laugh and you feel like you need a laugh, then that's different. But by any means, again, everything in moderation and to each their own. However, I know that studies have shown, which we'll go into that in a different video as well, on social media or children and electronics video that will be coming up on this channel. But for now, just remember, as we go through certain social media sites and we're scrolling through Facebook or TikTok and an hour goes by and we're like, oh my gosh, I have so many other things to do. This can be a great way to be mindful and aware of how much time you are actually designating to screen time, because then you can really use that as maybe your number one check mark off thing that you don't want to do on Wednesdays or you don't want to do on Thursdays, whatever it may be, just so you can designate more time for self-care, for yourself, your mental health, your physical health, for your children, etc. The next self-care tip, number 4, is sleep. You probably already know the importance of sleep just from feeling it in your body, from seeing the behaviors in your children when they don't get adequate quality sleep. Sleep can have a significant negative effect on our mental health and physical health if we don't get enough adequate sleep, or if we are not sleeping for a quality time. So we are going to talk about that here in a little bit. But first, I would like to show you a recent article that I found by Sherry and others, 2020. This shows us how critical sleep is to our mental health. You can see all of this supportive research in this article. For example, our child's wake-sleep schedule is typically inconsistent in the beginning of their development, such as in infancy. They wake up every few hours to feed, to change, to get cuddles, whatever it might be. So of course, as parents, we definitely lack sleep during this time. Many caregivers are able to cope, but for some, the chronic sleep disruption due to child sleep problems such as night wakings is associated with negative effect and distress in parenting. This can lead to ailments like postpartum depression, which we will most likely talk again about on this channel in another video. This other paragraph shows disrupted sleep may adversely affect a parent's capacity for sensitive, responsive, and engaged parenting in many ways. For example, it may be related to poorer parenting because of its effects on parents' cognitive regulation capacity, which is critical for responding in effective ways to child behavioral challenges and other stressors, which mindfulness can help with as well. Again, on page 11 here, Sherry and others found that poor sleep, when indicated by short duration, overrides any potential effect of better cognitive regulation in minimizing negative parenting for mothers of toddlers. Again, negative parenting is classified as harsh, intrusive, or reactive parenting, which we'll get to in a whole nother video. So try to get a full night's sleep. 7 to 8 hours for adults is typically adequate. Our children need more. You will notice the difference in yourself. You can probably feel the difference. I know that I can feel the difference. Some people need a little bit more. Other people need a little bit less. Again, just like anything in science, it is all correlated, and there's so many different factors that can be involved in that. But for me, I typically like to get 8 or even 9 hours of sleep. I feel energized. I don't have as much stress. My body doesn't feel anxious when I have adequate sleep. So get that good night's sleep. I'm also going to post things on this channel, certain sleep meditation music that can help with sleep, other things that can help with sleep. So stay tuned. Speaking of sleep, our next simple self-care tip, number 7, might be number 6, check in with me later, we'll figure that out, is getting adequate nutrition to include food and hydration into our diet and our children's. This can also have an effect on sleep. You know the saying, you are what you eat. Well, this is real. When you have an adequate nutritional intake into your diet or your schedule, your children most likely will as well. And we can see significant improvements in our behavior as well as our child's when we are eating the right foods and drinking enough water or fluids throughout the day. Oftentimes we can see more positive energy in our child, calmer children, they sleep better, they have better physical effects such as less disease, sickness, obviously less mental health symptoms, which I'm going to show you here from a recent article in just a moment. Nutritional foods can mean different things to different people. I simply live by everything in moderation. Too much of one thing and too little of something else can have deleterious effects on our mental health and our physical health. Having just the right diet can be very tricky, especially with children, but the more you substitute healthy foods into your diet, such as more fruits and vegetables and nuts and healthy grains, the better you're gonna be more in tune with your body and your mind. You're gonna feel it, your children are gonna feel it, which can lead to being a healthier, happy person and thus a better parent. There are also studies on the positive effects of certain eating schedules. For example, eating a little bit later in the day, eating smaller meals throughout the day, and not eating approximately 2 to 3 hours before bedtime is a good way to start. This one article shows us that time-restricted eating, which is a type of intermittent fasting that is based on the circadian rhythm, has shown to improve metabolic dysfunctions in those who are overweight or obese. There are many ways to practice self-care eating tips, which we will go over in another video. One of the other things that I would like to mention to you is hydration. Hydration is significantly important for our overall mental health and well-being. It has made a world of difference for me. I actually recently bought this water bottle. I think it's called a Giotto water bottle. I bought it on Amazon for like 20 bucks. It basically has all of these motivational quotes to help ensure that you're getting adequate hydration throughout your day. It'll say like, hydrate yourself, feeling awesome, don't give up, almost there. And it helps me extremely much throughout my day. As you can see, it's 1 o'clock and I've already drinking to 3 o'clock, so I'm ahead of the game. Although my 4-year-old daughter has probably drinking some of this with me today as well. So I encourage you to stay hydrated. Hydration increases our stamina and energy, our concentration and focus. When we have more energy and are more concentrated, then we can thus be more mindful and aware of how we feel, regulate our emotions, be a happier, healthy person, and thus a better parent. Okay, our next self-care tip is exercise. Self-care tip number 6, which I think I might have told you that self-care tip previously or a couple ones ago was number 6, and that was not right. Ignore me, backtrack, whatever you need to do. Tip number 6 is exercise. There are extensive research on the importance of exercise in our mental health as well as physical health. Of course, we're gonna go over a couple articles that are related to both of these. The first one is a very well-known study conducted by Peng Wen and others. It's called Minimum Amount of Physical Activity for Reduced Mortality and Extended Life Expectancy. They found that people who exercise for 92 minutes per week, or about 15 minutes per day, reduced risk of all-cause mortality and had a 3-year longer life expectancy than those that did not exercise regularly. This is astonishing. If you exercise 15 minutes per day, which most of you probably do, just walking around the office or cleaning your house or taking the dog for a walk or your kid to the park, but being mindful of that and ensuring that we add this to our weekly schedule is imperative. Especially if we can exercise for 15 minutes a day and limit our chances of diabetes and cancer, cardiovascular disease, and increase our life expectancy. And be 14% less worried about dying by disease. I don't know about you all, but I do not want to die by disease. I would like to die naturally in my sleep, just closing my eyes, super peaceful. So just a quick tip there. If you want this article again, let me know and I can send it to you. Another article found that physical activity and exercise have a positive impact on depression. No, these are general articles, excuse me. Past research, if you want those articles, let me know and I can send them to you as well. But in general, physical activity and exercise have a positive impact on depression, anxiety, mood, affect, body image, body dissatisfaction, and overall quality of life, and many more. In this article that I'd like to show you, Herbert and others recently found that individuals who engaged in an average of only 12 minutes of aerobic exercise twice per week for 6 weeks had lower depression and stress ratings than those who did not exercise. Again, this is another article I can send to you, but that is not even 15 minutes a day. That is 12 minutes, 3 days a week. So if you can at least, if you have 1 job or 2 jobs and school and you're trying to juggle all of your kids' schedules and activities and you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't know how I'm gonna do this. We're gonna talk a lot more about that on this channel, including today, how we can incorporate 2, 3, sometimes even 4 of these self-care tips in one Stay tuned. The reason scientists, and there's so much research about the positive effects of exercise on our mental health, is because I just want to educate you briefly on the effects of the body and what it does to the body. So obviously it gets our heart rate going. Our heart rate pumps the blood throughout our body, and it also pumps our spinal fluid throughout the brain. So what it's doing is producing more spinal fluid flow throughout the brain, which then intensifies all of our hormones and neurotransmitters to tell our body that we're doing the right thing, which is basically producing what's called positive neurons. Positive neurons are working themselves in the brain, creating new neural pathways to make for more neural pathways. And the more positive neurons that we have, the better that we feel. We're gonna go over that in a whole nother video on brain development and positive thinking, so stay tuned for that. But it's just crazy how imperative and how simple getting our brain working and our body working just by 12 to 15 minutes of exercise. So get out there. If you are not physically disabled, get out there for 15 minutes, go for a walk by yourself, with your husband, with your kids, go to the park, lift some weights, do some yoga or Pilates, make it happen. Another quick tip about exercise: if it's not something that you love to do, which, to be honest, I think the majority of us, before we exercise, none of us really love it right away. But the more we do it, the better that we feel. So that is why we typically do it, or the better we want to look as well, which is also great. But so one thing that I do in my schedule is getting that 15 to 20 minutes in at least once per week. One of the weekly tasks that I can check off is mopping the floors while I exercise. So one of those things on our don't like list that we talked about before, one of the things I despise is mopping floors. I don't know why. I think maybe, I have some square footage in my house that has a lot of flooring and no carpet. That could be one of the reasons why. But anyways, I take one thing from my don't like list and I listen to music. I put on my headphones, or I put on my Alexa. My kids dance with me. We dance and I listen to music. The floors get mopped. I feel good. I accomplished something, so I can check mark that off the list. My husband feels good when he comes home and he sees clean floors. He's kind of a clean freak. Shh, don't tell him I told you that. But he feels good, which ultimately then makes me feel good. The house smells clean, good feng shui in the house, so the family, the kids all feel good too. It's a win-win. In addition, I also like to exercise with my kids. That way I'm spending quality time with them. Going on adventures. Maybe we'll go hiking or biking or swimming, or even just go to the park together and get that 15 minutes in. So I encourage you to find ways to incorporate multiple self-care tips into one. We have another one in our self-care tip number 7 that we are going to talk about right now. Self-care tip number 7 is vitamin D. Vitamin D is actually a hormone that is typically obtained by sun exposure. That is one of the easiest ways to get our vitamin D need, is sun exposure. Another way is through our diet, by incorporating more nutrients that are high in vitamin D. Another way is supplementation, but we're going to talk about that in just a minute when we look at one of these recent articles that have been published. A side tip about vitamin D and sun exposure: there are negative effects of too much exposure to the sun, such as melanoma cancer. So I'm going to encourage you to apply sunscreen before you go outside. Vitamin D is an essential nutrient that can be also accomplished by going on that 15-minute walk outside. I am going to show you an article that was published recently. It's called The Influence of Vitamin D Intake and Status on Mental Health in Children. It was a review after analyzing 7,613 studies on vitamin D and mental health in children. They found that vitamin D deficiency is correlated with disorders such as behavioral problems, violence behaviors, anxiety, depression symptoms, aggressive disorders, psychotic features, and suicidal incidents. Having a sufficient amount of vitamin D can limit levels of distress, improve quality of life, well-being, mood, and sleep patterns. So if that is not enough to say that you would like to get at least a little bit of vitamin D, go outside 15 minutes a day, look more on the internet, credible sources hopefully, about which foods have higher vitamin D, eat more of that. Studies on vitamin D and supplementation are actually limited at best in regards to their impact on positive mental health. So this was also a systematic review of thousands of articles that demonstrated there was not statistical significance of vitamin D supplementation on our mental health. Simple self-care tip number 9 is spending quality time with our loved ones. I don't think there's any negative discussion on spending quality time with our loved ones. Research specifically based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs shows that loving someone else and having someone love us is vital need for survival, a sense of belongingness. We are going to talk about that in a whole nother video as well. Keep it brief, spending time with your loved ones, people who make you laugh, who make you feel good about yourself, people that you are comfortable around, people that care about you and you care about them, things that you have in common with them, and you can talk about your excitements or you can talk about your accomplishments. All of those things are vital to our self-care. I'm going to encourage you to use on your task list that we talked about earlier, the do's and don'ts. Add more of wanting to spend quality time with your families. Find a way to do so. It's going to benefit not only you, but them, your children as well. In the world of globalization and technology, and of course with the recent COVID pandemic, it's been hard for a lot of us to get out and spend more quality time with our loved ones. There are ways to supplement that, and some of it involves technology and electronics. I know this is a sensitive subject for all of us out there. Too much electronics, or maybe not enough electronics. Where are we at in the middle of that? There are things that we can discuss as a way to supplement that. If, for example, you are still home, you are cautious about the pandemic, or you're working from home and you want to find other ways, or your kids are at home, maybe you're homeschooling them now, but there's also a need for them to socialize with other peers. There is a study that I read recently, which I can find for you if you'd like, and I will send it to you. Let me know, comment below. But it showed since the pandemic, suicidality, so the rate of suicide incidents, went up 54% in adolescents since the pandemic. So what that means to me and to those of us in the scientific community is a couple different things. It could be a factor related to loss or grief of a loved one. It could be because there's higher stressors in your environment since the pandemic and staying home. But the majority of us say that it's probably because that need to belong, our need to associate with other peers, was diminished or taken away completely. There are things that we can do, as an example, certain electronics, playing video games, doing this virtual reality game where you're getting exercise and you're associating with other peers can be really beneficial for our overall self-care. In ourselves not only, but in our children. So if you don't have a partner or a best friend or someone that you associate with in person physically, there are ways to supplement that. We won't get into that too much on this video today. That will be on the future video, children and electronics, so stay tuned. Another important tip for self-care number 9, spending quality time with loved ones, is making special quality time for you and your partner. This is imperative in any relationship. We have to make time for each other, whether it be scheduling out like 1 hour per week for a date night or lunch together, or you want to schedule a time so you can watch your favorite Netflix show, whatever that might be. I'm going to encourage you to also add this to your schedule. It is important. Again, it is one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, one of our basic needs for survival. Intimacy, sex is also on that list. Just a tip I'll show you, and we'll talk about that more again in the future. But intimacy, a sense of belonging, feeling loved, loving someone else is critical for our overall mental health and well-being. If you do not have a significant other, or you do not have a partner or a best friend that you can spend this quality time with, I am going to encourage you to get out there and meet somebody. There's all kinds of ways to do that. Maybe we can have a designated channel or video based on just that alone, how you can meet people. When I work with children, we talk a lot about simple steps on making new friendships. One of them, for example, for children, first you want to observe. You want to take the time to observe and be picky about who you bring into your life, because You are who you surround yourselves with. I am a huge believer in that. If you surround yourselves with people who are positive and leaders and optimistic and happy and healthy and kind, you are most likely going to be more of that yourself. So I'm going to encourage you first to observe your surroundings, whether you're at the grocery store or a coffee shop, or children in school when they're in the classroom and maybe they're more introverted and quiet, so they haven't met any friends yet. You can simply observe your surroundings, notice someone who's similar to you. Maybe you have similar interests. Maybe you're at the grocery store and you're shopping for the same thing. You can start by introducing yourself or giving a compliment. People love compliments, little compliments like, oh, I really like that shirt that you're wearing, or your hair looks nice today, or you don't want to make it weird or awkward, but there's so many different ways to just be friendly, be kind, and build a friendship that could potentially last for the rest of your life. So if you're interested in learning more about this or contacting me for a performance coaching session, please comment below. Also, we're still looking for someone to be a guest on the show. So if you're interested, put your information in the comments, let us know you want to be on the show, and I will give you a complimentary performance coaching session. Thank you so much. If you haven't liked or subscribed to this channel yet, please take time to do so now. It supports our community. Hey, simple self-care tip number 9. I'm getting all of mine mixed up. I think the last one I told you was number 9, but it was really number 8. So this one's number 9. Anyways, bear with me. Simple self-care tip number 9 is taking count these small accomplishments throughout your day. So everything on this list that we've talked about already, the list that you're making for yourself, it can start out very small, and I mean like making your bed in the morning can feel like a huge task, but ultimately it's something that's going to make you feel extremely well and accomplished just for making your bed in the morning. Maybe it's brushing your teeth. I hate brushing my teeth sometimes. I feel like it's such a chore. Like when you're exhausted throughout your day and you're busy with your 3 kids and your work and your school, whatever else you're doing, and you're just like exhausted and want to rack out. I brush my teeth for a few reasons. I brush my teeth because I know it's healthy for our bodies. It makes my breath smell good. It makes my teeth sparkly. It builds my confidence. So I brush my teeth. I accomplish that task. I check mark it off the list. I am done. I feel a little bit better about myself when I'm finished. If it's doing the dishes that you also love to do, start small. Do one dish at a time. Maybe you enjoy music, so you're listening to music while you're doing the dishes. You're telling yourself how freaking awesome you are for doing these dishes, one thing at a time. Your husband's gonna love you for doing these dishes. Your kids are gonna love you for doing these dishes because the house is clean. Thus, it will ultimately strengthen your feelings of accomplishment. Make it known. Let's face it, some tasks are irritating. We don't like to do them, but take pride in getting them done. Check marking that off of your list. It will further strengthen your ability to accomplish larger goals in the future, which we will talk about on this channel. Okay, you've made it this far. Give yourself a bear hug or a pat on the back. You are getting there. You are getting this done. You are listening in. Self-care tip number 10, last but definitely not least, is to love yourself. Enjoy it. Find the things that you love about yourself. Big things, small things, the things that other people love about you. Learn to love them. We are all different. We are all flawed. We all make mistakes. So let's stop telling ourselves that. Let's make some changes, change our mindset, change our perspective. Research shows that we have about 40,000 thoughts that are in our mind throughout the day. Let's fill more of those with positive thoughts. There is goodness in the world. There is goodness in each and every one of us. Let's start seeing those. Let's feel those. We need to. We deserve this. That video on positive thinking I will publish on this channel, so stay tuned for that as well. But overall, thank you so much for taking this time, 30 minutes, 20 minutes in your day today to watch this video, to practice these tips, to learn new things about yourself, maybe even about your children and your loved ones, and check marking off things that you don't enjoy doing, add more to the things that you do. Start small, reward yourself, and keep practicing. Thank you so much for joining this video today. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm hoping that you feel a little bit better after watching this video and can start accomplishing these tasks. Please comment on your journey below. I would love to hear how these things have helped you all. And again, if you're interested in joining or becoming a guest on the show, comment below. Reach out to me for any more information. Much love. You all take care and make it a great day. loved ones like your children. Remy, come here, say hi. To love your children, tell them how much you love them. It's so important. And get them orange juice. You want some orange juice? And she has been so awesome while I've been filming this video. So thank you, Remy, for allowing me to do this.